In my recent video where I broke down upcoming summer movies and their trailers, here's what I had to say about The Materialists. The trailer and title show me this really basic premise though. Something that I would have seen on like a Tumblr thread like years ago.
This girl is great at setting up other people, but not herself. Love is more than just money. And maybe once she learns that, she can find love herself.
This trailer looks like it's advertising a movie that's very well executed at the very least. Not to toot my own horn here, but that was kind of right on the money, right? I would give a spoiler warning to this discussion that we're about to have, but at the same time, you don't really need one. The trailer itself was the spoiler warning, right? The movie follows a girl played by Dakota Johnson that I can't even remember her name, and she is a matchmaker within New York, and she sets up other people based off of their Tinder preferences, yada yada yada, and eventually she finds Pedro Pascal, this unicorn, rich, tall, handsome, perfect, and has everything she could ever want in a material sense, until Chris Evans, her ex-boyfriend, shows up and throws a whole wrench into things as she begins to realize maybe there's more to love than material gain. It is the same concept you've seen many times before across books, movies, Tumblr posts, Instagram posts, what have you. You've never seen it done more tastefully, more intentionally, with more care in how it presents love and how it can be so complicated and yet so simple if we make it so. This movie has one really great strength and one incredible strength that I think ultimately does it in though, and prevents it from being the perfect, incredible movie that it could have been. A unicorn, you could say, in and of itself. Also, just so you're aware, I do movie chats like this all the time. If you're interested in that sort of thing, definitely like, subscribe, comment, all that YouTube stuff. It helps me out big time. The first thing I really liked about The Materials is its focus on letting you, the audience member, be present in a way that not many other movies in this genre in particular are letting you do. So go watch any other trailer or go watch any other rom-com, things of that nature, and it's very high energy. A lot of cuts, a lot of cutting back and forth between people and conversations to keep you hooked and keep you engaged into what they're saying. This movie doesn't rely on that. It actually has a pretty darn good script at its base, at its core, so it doesn't need those cuts. You find that The Materialists is a very low energy movie. So contrast all those high energy quick cuts I mentioned earlier with a typical scene between Dakota Johnson and Pedro Pascal, whatever their characters' names are. The camera will just sit and watch them at a table. It may not cut away for minutes even, as you just feel like you're at a table with them having a conversation. The volume's a little lower than usual, so you lean in a bit more to make sure you hear everything they say. It's very interactive in such a clever way that I can't remember the last time a movie made me do that. It'll let you sit there for extended periods of time, whether it be Chris Evans and Dakota Johnson watching a wedding pass by them as they reflect on love and why people get married in this gorgeous scene that, again, is not a lot of cuts, and you just sit there and watch with them. It was enrapturing even, and I gotta give credit to the filmmakers here because that was a really difficult thing to do and they pulled it off stupendously. This results in a much more intimate feel, which is exactly something that a movie of this premise needed. Now, as a counterpoint to that is actually the movie's second great strength, which I also am going to wind up into saying is its greatest weakness, and here's why. It's almost like no one naturally walks into a scene in this movie. Everyone is marionette puppeted around. They recite dialogue as if there's no purpose behind them, and I don't think that's actually on the actors and actresses as well. I think that is a stylistic choice by potentially Celine Song, the director, with the overall goal of not making these characters boring to listen to, but to almost make them inhuman away, almost as if they are lacking some critical piece of themselves to make them human, which is perfect. That fits the theme of The Materialists extremely well. What more human thing to do than to love easily, than to look for love in sometimes the less successful places that aren't in the grand halls, but more right in front of you. And so I see this at the beginning of the movie and I say, okay, we are dealing with some very impersonable characters, and eventually they're gonna grow to be more personable as they learn what the true nature of love is, or yada yada yada. Insert cheesy line here, right? Which is particularly more convincing because Chris Evans here gives a really excellent performance. I'm super glad his agent decided to finally show up to work. He is absolutely the humane crux of the Materialists. Any sort of pain, any sort of strife, any sort of interest we garner from him, while everyone else in the movie kind of talks to each other like they are reading a script and walking around because they just feel like they're told to do so. Chris Evans completely changes that from the second he enters on screen. So awesome. We have these inhumane characters, a human character that's going to drag Dakota Johnson back towards him, and it's going to be this wonderful love story. They're going to fall in love by the end of it, yada, yada, yada. And we have two both very human, personable people to relate to, and they fall in love, and I go home and I cry and blah, blah. But that never happens. You see, the greatest strength of this movie is its bold decision to have these inhuman puppets walk around for half the time, right? But it never flips back on the other side of that. We never see the more human side of them. We never get to this feeling where you feel like two people on screen love each other. Not even the two people that should, between Chris Evans and Dakota Johnson. You probably know, but by the end of this movie, Dakota Johnson leaves Pedro Pascal, she goes to Chris Evans, and that's the grand moral of the story. That's where you go to find love, right? But by the time that conversation happens at the end of this movie, where Dakota Johnson finally confesses her love for Chris Evans, I am sitting there like, I don't believe you. I have not been convinced that you had any feelings for this man whatsoever. The closest we get to them having some sort of connection is her saying that his car smells the same as it used to. We see Dakota Johnson go to this rich man instead of Chris Evans' character. I should really use the term character here so we don't get the actors and actresses confused, but I hope you know what I mean. She realizes she doesn't love Pedro Pascal's character, but by the time the movie wraps up, you don't feel like she learned anything. She feels like the exact same person. As a result, this feels like an absolutely loveless relationship that spawned at the end. It feels like Chris Evans is now just confessing his love to the same girl we've been with for the past 2 hours, someone who only cares about the material thing. We've never seen it proven otherwise because there's such a focus on her inhumanity instead of her humanity. I think this movie needed to be maybe like 20 minutes longer, which is a rush because I do think this movie was absolutely well paced. I never felt bored. I never felt like it dragged. And maybe that was a necessary sacrifice so that we can have those more intimate moments I talked about earlier where it is very low energy, so you don't feel like the movie drags on. But I needed another 20 minutes with these characters. I needed another something where we could see them bloom, where we can see them develop, where we can see something besides the constantly referenced 5 years that they were together before the movie even started. The Materialist is beautiful, don't get me wrong. I think we're gonna see a lot of this movie on like YouTube clips or TikTok, whatever, because it's gorgeously shot. People say wonderful things with a wonderful script and beautiful messages about love. Chris Evans especially, they give him all the best lines in this movie. Go ham, right? But while those clips are gonna probably blow up and while they're gonna be highly entertaining to watch, I can't help but feel disappointed because this movie could have been one of the greats. It could have had this beauty, this aesthetic that you only see on, Pinterest vision boards or whatever, with all this beautiful dialogue that people will recite to each other. So it's like 80% of the way there, but the one thing it's missing is its most critical aspect. The one thing it's trying to tell the story about. And unfortunately, that results in a film that feels loveless. Do you want to walk into a movie like The Materialists and feel a lack of love? No, I don't want to. The absence of that love and the absence of that humanity winds up being a lot louder than whatever love might be present. I do think it is absolutely worth a watch, and I think I will be on the lookout for Celine Song's next work because I was enraptured by every single frame that she posed to me. So Materialist, it's good. It is a very good movie, I would even say, but it could have been great. But what did you think of Materialist, or how else would you like to see this genre kind of spun on its head and done in a different manner by a different artist? Let me know down in the comments below, and for more movie chats like this over a cup of coffee, like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.